property management. And in today's video, I wanted to spend some time talking about some things you might want to think about before you list your house. Some repairs you might want to make, some sprucing up, just getting your house ready to list so that we would be able to get you top dollar, a great offer for it. So I know that getting ready to sell your house can be overwhelming, especially if you've lived in the house for a really long time. You can kind of be immune to the clutter and surroundings. And so, we come in with a different set of eyes. And when we talk about decluttering or moving personal property, it's never personal. It's just trying to get the house in the best conditions so that we can get you the best offer. So the more you can make your house look open and inviting, the more it'll look open and inviting to potential buyers. So one thing to think about is odor. We as pet owners can become nose blind to maybe the odor of our pets. If I know I've had an older stinky dog, and we've all had the cat box or the bunny cage or the bird cage. And so, we're used to those things, but buyers can come in and find that very off-putting. So we want to make sure that we take care of those things before we start allowing potential buyers to come in and view our home. If someone in your house smokes, or, if you use strong cooking spices, something like that, that also can be off-putting for people. So you just want to be aware, and your agent may talk to you about that. And again, it's not personal. We're just trying to get you the best offer for your house. And we come in with a different set of eyes and a different nose. And so we might notice some things that, like I say, you just don't notice anymore. And we all do that. We all have things in our home that we're just used to, so we don't notice. One of the things you might do also before you list it or before you talk to the agent is just have a trusted friend come and say, hey, do you notice anything here? Is there any odors, or is that cat box really strong? Cat boxes are probably one of the big culprits that we'll need to take care of before we start showing a house. It may be, can a friend take the cat and keep the cat while we're doing the showings? Things like that can help. So we'll kind of talk in a little bit about some smaller things you can do. But one of the things that people always ask about is about upgrades. Should I replace fill in the blank? So while most experienced agents would have a good feel for what you need to do or not do, we typically don't recommend that you need to remodel your kitchen to sell your house, because somebody buying it's going to come in, they're going to want to make it their own. Like I said, make it appealing by having it less clutter, having it nice and clean. So while most experienced agents would have a good feel for the value of their house, deciding where to spend money prior to listing can be guesswork. And we know it can be frustrating for a seller if, let's say, they just spent $50,000 on a pool upgrade, and we let them know that's probably going to add $10,000 or $15,000 to the sales price. We understand that can be frustrating, but that's just the reality. It's just like if you go and spend, $50,000 to upgrade your kitchen, you are not going to be able to list the property for $50,000 more than the market's going to bear. That's just unfortunately not how it works. So knowing what improvements to invest in can be a little bit tricky. Like I said, so we know, some home buyers are attracted to upgrading kitchens and floors, but I just don't think that you're going to get the return on that investment that you would like. So it's almost better if you have really problematic flooring, like if the carpet's really old, just to offer a credit to the buyer so that they can pick out the flooring that they want rather than spending the money to do it yourself. That would be more economical for you. It might be more attractive for the buyer because they can pick out what they want for their flooring. They don't have to, they can pick out what flooring they like. It's not a matter of, that's not what I would have picked. I have a house where I love my house, but I would have not picked the granite that's in it. So, that's just the way that is. So I can remodel my kitchen and make it the granite I would like to have, and I don't have to live with, the granite somebody else picked. The other thing is you don't want to over upgrade for your neighborhood. You need to, work with an experienced agent and look at the comps around your neighborhood. It's not a good idea to upgrade more than, especially making the house bigger. Let's say you're going to add on or something like that. If most of the houses in your neighborhood are, 1,500 to 2,000 square feet, you don't want to make your house 4,000 square feet. That's going to be, problematic for resale. Yeah, and the reason for that is people shop neighborhoods first. So you want to make your home similar to the other ones in your neighborhood. It's fine to make it nicer, but you don't want to, like I said, over upgrade on your house. So one of the simple things you could do is make your front door appealing. Walking up to the front door, people want to feel good about that. Refresh the paint, maybe. If the paint's peeling. Sometimes, doors, if they face where the sun hits them a lot, the paint can peel on them. They can bubble. So, just a fresh coat of paint on your front door. Just some nice flowers, if there's room for a pot next to the door, can make a big difference to, the appeal of just walking up to the door. Get rid of all the cobwebs that we sometimes see in the entryway or around the exterior lights. Maybe give the house a good power washing. That might be a good investment in some money to get the house ready. Maybe get the windows cleaned. The little things can make a really big difference. Because in real estate, curb appeal is really critical. When someone drives up to the house and they're going to look at it, they're either going to get excited or they're going to go, ooh, so we want to make sure they get excited, not go, I don't really like that, Make sure that the front yard looks nice and green. If you need to freshen up some bark or take out the dead plants and the weeds, maybe plant a few flowers that have a splash of color. All of those things can make a huge difference to the curb appeal of the house. The first impression that buyers usually have is the online presence. So the photos that your agent takes are going to be critical, but they're only going to be as good as what the front of the house looks like. So you want to make sure that the house looks good in the photos. That first picture is always of the exterior of the house. So you want to make sure that attracts people to click through and look at all the other photos. Even just get a new welcome mat. You can put a new welcome mat down. That might make a huge difference too. So let's talk for a minute about the inside of the house. Some little things that can make a big difference. And I know it's really difficult for some people, but getting rid of the clutter. And that might mean you need to box some things up, put them in storage, put them in the rafters of the garage, but just declutter the house. And most of us agents can come in and give you some ideas, or I have a person I work with and she's amazing. She'll come in with me and she'll work with the homeowner to declutter. Sometimes just moving a piece of artwork from this wall to this wall, you're like, wow, that made such a difference. So she might move some furniture around. So doing some things like that, that's not super expensive. Like staging can be really expensive, but it's not expensive just to have someone come in and use the things that you have in your house, but move them around a little bit, tweak them, put some things away, say, we don't need this. Getting personal photos put away is a big deal because you want the person to come in and they want to be able to see their own things there, like my own items. Like I can see my couch here. I can see my piece of artwork over there. So that's kind of what you want to create, is an environment where that person who's looking at your house can see their own personal property in there. I'm going to touch again on the litter boxes because it's a big deal. So that's the other thing, is if you can maybe have the cat stay with a friend and not have the litter box in there. But if that's not possible, then just make sure the litter box is clean every single day, that there's no odor, that it's scooped and clean for every single showing. Any open houses that come through, make sure if you have dogs, make sure in the yard you pick up the dog poo so we don't have people stepping on that in the backyard or seeing that. So just, we all love pets, but just make sure that, during the listing period, that everything about the pet is cleaned up. So I think I talked about the front door and, maybe painting the front door and cleaning the windows. You may want to paint around the window trim on the outside too. If you don't want to do a full exterior paint, if that's not necessary, then, maybe you can just paint the trim, because the trim is usually the wood boards and those can get dried and cracky looking. So a fresh coat of paint there would really make a pop on the front of the house. So that's a great idea. Spending money on a deep house clean before could be amazing. Maybe clean the carpets, do a deep clean, make sure they get all the cobwebs up in the corners, clean the window tracks, the slider tracks, dust the blinds. Deep cleaning in the bathrooms is great. It'll just make the house show better and get you top dollar for your house. In the kitchen, clean off the counters, make them look as sparse as possible for showings. I know it's really hard when you're living in the house, but it's just something that will make a big difference. When people walk in, they don't want to see, a ton of appliances and stacked up dishes and things like that on the counter. They just like to see a clean counter again, so they can imagine their own items, their own personal property inside the kitchen or inside the bathroom or the living room or whatever room it might be. You want to make sure, you stash away prescription medicines and maybe your bottles of alcohol, tuck those away. And speaking of that, you'll want to make sure before you do showings that you put all your valuables away. If people are going to be coming through the house, I mean, we as agents, we try to walk through the house with any potential buyers, but sometimes they can get split up, and you just want to make sure your things are safe. So make sure you put all of your personal items away. You want to make sure all your personal property valuables, I should say, are put away so that they're not tempting for anybody, especially if there's an open house, because you're going to have people going through, and we as agents can't necessarily keep up with everybody, especially if you have a big crowd. If it's a seller's market and there's a lot of demand for a house, there could be a huge number of groups going through. And so you want to make sure all of your personal items that are valuable are put away. I know you might still be living in your house, so every day make your bed, vacuum the floor, wipe down the counters before you leave for the day, because you don't know who's going to call to show it, and you want it to be ready at a moment's notice. You figure out a plan for your pets. If you need to remove them, you can set up with your agent that a quick call to you before showing, then you have time to run by, scoop up your pets, take them out of the house, take them for a ride, take them for a walk, and make sure that they're out of your house so people can view the house without a barking dog. Or for your pet safety too, you want to make sure they don't slip out the door. That would be terrible. And we as agents always worry about that and try to make sure that's not the case. But if you worst case scenario, I've been in houses where they've got their pet crated, and that's okay too. This all might be temporarily inconvenient, but ultimately it'll help get you a good offer on your house and get your house sold, which is what the goal is, right? The other thing to think about before you list your house, and your agent can help you with this, is it's not the property itself, but the title. Is the title clear? Are there any issues with the title? Did you go through a divorce and not remove your spouse? Any issues like that, you don't want to get, into the transaction and then find out you've got a title issue. So your agent can pre-open escrow. That escrow officer can run what's called a preliminary title report and identify any problems that might come up or that exist on the title, and then they can go ahead and start taking care of that. So that might be a good thing to talk to your agent about as well. Just a few other tidbits to think about. If you have fogged windows and maybe you have the warranty on the windows that you could get the glass replaced, that might be a good thing to look into. Fogged windows are a big deal that come up on inspection reports, and even though it's just aesthetic, a lot of buyers look at that as a big expense that they might have to deal with. So, look into any warranties you have on your windows and maybe replace that glass if possible. I bought a house once and I wish the seller had done that for me, but they didn't. And those warranties don't go from seller to buyer. If you bought the windows, it only sticks with you once you sell the house. Typically the warranty is no longer in effect. If you have leaking faucets or tubs, go ahead and get those fixed. That's not going to be a great thing for buyers to see. And it just makes them think what other things are wrong or not being well maintained. So go ahead and fix any little leaks, if you have a leaky tub or a dripping faucet or something like that. Sometimes if it looks like your house has a lot of dry rot on the outside, you might want to go ahead and get a pest inspection before you list. It's not required, and the buyer can do that in escrow. But if you think it's a big deal, like you might have a lot and they might be expensive, and this is really true if you have like a deck that's attached to the house, those can get expensive. You may want to spend a couple $100s to get a pest inspection. Then you'll kind of know what you're looking at. It might affect the price you list the house for. I'm not going to fix it, but I've reduced the price in anticipation of you, the buyer, having to fix this. So that's just something to think about. Same with the roof. If it's visible shingles missing or something like that, you might want to get a roofer out to go ahead and replace those, or get a roof inspection. Same thing, it's good to know. Like I say, none of these inspections are required because the buyer will do them. But if you anticipate a problem, it might be good for you, the seller, to know that these things might come up in escrow. If there's any loose deck rails, handrails, go ahead and fix those, because they can actually be a safety issue while somebody's looking at the house, and you don't want to have that liability. So, if anything like that's loose, where someone might need to go down a set of stairs, but the railing's loose, you might want to go ahead and fix those. If your HVAC system is older, you might want to go ahead and get it serviced. Certainly make sure your filter's clean. That's a big deal. And a buyer might get an HVAC inspection, and you want them to at least say in the report that your filter was clean. You may want to have it inspected yourself, serviced before you list. Then you can say it's been serviced and my service provider said it's in good shape. Just something to think about. Make sure all the light bulbs are working. You don't want people going in houses and flipping on switches and have half the light bulbs not work. That's not going to be a huge expense, but it will be a big deal. We as agents go through before showing. We try to get there a little bit early, and at least I do, and turn on all the lights so the house looks bright, open blinds, so everything looks nice and bright when someone comes in to see it. So they can picture, the natural light that's going to come in from the outside and also what lighting there is inside. Wiping down the walls might be a good idea. If you don't want to do an interior paint, just make sure there's not scuffs and marks that can be wiped off. If the kids have drawn with crayon, go ahead and, maybe clean that off as well, just so that the walls look clean. Wiping baseboards, those things that we tend to miss in daily life. If you had to move furniture, or if you moved furniture for staging, there may be a dusty baseboard back there. Make sure you get that. And that would probably be picked up in the deep cleaning I talked about earlier. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you'd like more information, you can reach me through my Susan.leu Realtor Facebook page, or you can go to my website, which is leurealestate.com, and you can reach me through there if you have any questions about buyers or sellers. If you have any questions about buying or selling, I'm here to help. Thanks.